in 2021, we kept reiterating that Ukraine was going to join. We kept saying that over and over again. So our diplomats are lying?
Yes.
Yes,
that's the real world, guys. Come on, come on.
That. But you could.
That's the real world.
Wait a sec. Our diplomats are lying all the time, yet the Russians should trust them when they offer assurances.
No.
And we shouldn't.
Good morning from Naba, Cyprus. You just saw that video segment that was taken from a monk debate, and it was between Harvard professor Stephen Walt, I believe, and Chicago professor John Mearsheimer, and they were debating 2014 American ambassador to Russia Michael McFaul and 2014 Polish foreign minister Radoslaw Sikorski. And they were talking, of course, about Ukraine and the conflict in Ukraine. And you heard McFaul, the former American ambassador to Russia, who, weirdly enough, even though he was ambassador to Russia, really despises Russia and Putin. And Sikorski, by the way, who was foreign minister in Poland, is not very fond of Russia either. He's actually married to Anne Applebaum, who's a big-time Russophobe. She's a journalist and writes for The Atlantic and The Economist. Like, she's a neocon, like a high-level neocon. And anyway, they do not like Russia. They do not like Putin's Russia. Those two. And they were debating Mearsheimer, and you heard McFaul openly admit that diplomats lie. They lie all the time. Ukraine was never going to get into NATO. It was all a lie. I remember 2 months ago, the Wall Street Journal actually ran a story saying that NATO officials would tell Zelensky to, in public, to say that he's getting into NATO, but in private, they told him, you're never getting into NATO. And Zelensky went along with it because, he's a puppet actor. So he'll just read his script. And he had a public and a private position. Hillary Clinton would also brag about how she says certain things to the public. She has a public position, but in private, it's a whole different story. So having a public and private position when you're a politician or a diplomat is not uncommon. But McFaul to admit openly during this debate that not only was it a lie that Ukraine was going to get into NATO, but McFaul was saying, come on, guys, come on, man, he was saying. Diplomats lie all the time. This is reality. This is the real world. And Mearsheimer's response was brilliant. Very, very smart response to McFaul. So if collective West diplomats lie all the time, then why should Russia believe any of what NATO says with regards to expansion, to being only a defensive alliance, and that Russia has nothing to worry about, and all of these things. So McFaul got owned. Sikorski in the debate got owned. These two guys, by the way, were in and around Ukraine during the Maidan coup. I mean, actually, Sikorski was the foreign minister of Poland, and he was actually at the Maidan when Yanukovych was trying to figure out a solution to the protests. And they actually worked out an agreement. Yanukovych, then president of Ukraine, actually worked out an agreement with Germany, France, Poland, and John McCain was also hanging around there. And Yanukovych said, look, I'll call snap elections. I will create a power-sharing government so that the protests can stop and we can return to peace. But when Yanukovych came up with that agreement, and the EU supposedly signed off on it, you had the coup d'etat really ramp up, and you had the sniper incident, and Yanukovych had to flee for his life, and the rest is history. And now we are where we are. But I think that Radoslaw Sikorski, he was not there during those negotiations to try and find a peace. I believe he was there to push the coup forward. That's just my belief, but, who knows? Anyway, those guys got owned during those debates, and it just goes to show how much of a lie this Ukraine war narrative has become. And we had the lies just a couple of weeks ago with Mariupol, with Azovstal, and that this is an evacuation and not a surrender. We had the lie that was pushed out by the mainstream media that Russia was was bombing Mariupol and bombing cities in the east of Ukraine because they're butchers and they just like to bomb and destroy things. And that was not the case either. That's also a lie. Larry Johnson, on his Sonar 21, he actually has his last article has a good debunking of what actually took place in Mariupol. This is what he said. He said that Zelensky and his gang of thieves pushed the meme that Russia was attacking ruthlessly the civilian population of Mariupol. But that is another big lie. The Azov thugs placed their weapons and personnel in civilian neighborhoods and refused to let the civilians flee to safety. Russia could have flattened the city, turning it into a smoldering pile of rubble. They did not do that because they wanted to minimize civilian losses. But the Azov folks discovered, to their chagrin, that the human shield tactic did not work. They were pushed back into the steel plant and bombed into submission. What will happen to them? They will be interrogated. Some will be given the opportunity to flip and become agents of Russian intelligence. The Azov leaders and their followers who committed atrocities in the Donbass over the last 8 years will get the Hans Frank treatment. So you can look up Hans Frank and see what treatment he got after World War II. But, you know, Larry Johnson, he does a good job debunking the general narrative in Mariupol as well. And it's a super windy day, you can tell by the flags. I'm in the center of Ayia Napa. You can see the fountain as well, but it is like hurricane level winds here. So yeah, all lies, all lies. Ukraine getting it to NATO is a lie. The narrative of Mariupol is a lie. The ghost of Kiev a lie. Snake Island a lie. The siege of Kiev is a lie. The siege of Kharkiv is a lie. All they have are PR narratives. What you never see the collective West media talk about is the actual ground war, the artillery ground war that is taking place in Donbass, and the fact that Zelensky's military is encircled in 4 different cauldrons, 3 or 4 different cauldrons. I'm getting reports of 2,000 to 8,000 troops are trapped in each of those cauldrons. Zelensky's commanders are begging him to pull those troops back while they still have a chance to retreat, and Zelensky refuses. And the Russians now are starting to dismantle any retreat routes that were afforded to these Ukraine military that are trapped in the cauldrons, because Zelensky is just keeping them stuck there. And his military is begging him, retreat, please retreat, but he doesn't do it. And yeah, so, you know, he obviously doesn't care about what's happening in the East, because there's no good narratives in the East, are there? There's good narratives elsewhere in the country, like Mariupol and the bombing of Mariupol, and Putin is a butcher, and all of these kind of PR optic narratives. We're going to have the narrative now coming soon with regards to Russia is bankrupt, Russia's going to default on their bond payments, but Russia beat them to the punch. Biden was going to not allow Russia to make payments on bonds in the U.S., which are due on May 25th, and he was going to cancel a waiver that allowed the Russians to actually pay for those loans. And after he was going to cancel the waiver, the narrative was going to be Putin is bankrupt, Putin's war machine is in default, and all of these things. But Russia actually beat him to the punch, and they made the payment of those loans just a couple of days ago before the Biden White House could cancel that waiver. So Russia knew what was up, and they made the payments. It was something like $76 million on one and like $28 million on another bond repayment. And the Russians, they're swimming in cash because of record-breaking oil and gas sales. And so for them, it's no problem making these payments. But Biden was going to try to get Russia is bankrupt narrative, and the Russians beat him to the punch. But I still think come May 25th, Biden's going to cancel the sanctions waiver for making payments to bondholders. Then the bondholders in the U.S. are going to take the Biden White House to court, and all kinds of hell is going to break loose after that. But no problem for the Biden White House. They want to score PR, media, narrative points. That's what concerns them. And another PR, media, optics narrative that is being pushed out is the Russian blockade, the naval blockade of Ukraine that is going to lead to mass starvation. That is the latest media narrative that the collective West is working overtime to try to push out. And I don't even know where I am. I think this is a monastery. I think this was an old monastery, if my memory serves me right, in the center of Ayia Napa. And Reuters, anyway, back to this naval blockade fiction. Reuters actually ran an article just yesterday, and Reuters said this. Let me pull it up. Exclusive, U.S. aims to arm Ukraine with advanced anti-ship missiles to fight the Russian blockade. So you're hearing this everywhere now, the Russian blockade that's going to starve the world. Mitch McConnell is giving interviews. The EU is talking about it. The mainstream media is talking about it. Zelensky's talking about it. And they're trying to prepare the collective West for the next dose of propaganda, which is going to be that come autumn, if, we don't know if this is going to happen, but if there are food shortages and if there are problems with the food supply and with the wheat supply, then they're preparing the collective West for Putin's naval blockade has starved the world. You know, kind of like the Putin price hikes that the Biden White House threw out there to try and divert the blame for the rising price of petrol and gas and energy. So they tried to pin it on Putin, and they actually put the very clever name, the clever meme of Putin price hikes. And they parroted that a lot. Jen Psaki was saying it every 5 seconds. Putin price hikes, Putin price hikes, Putin price hikes. That was what was coming out of the collective West. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for the world, no one bought it. Everyone knew who was responsible and who is responsible for the rising price of gas and oil and petrol, diesel, energy, and all those things. But the new narrative that they're going to talk about is Putin's naval blockade is going to cause starvation. And it's wrong. It's another fiction, because Russia has come out with many statements over the past few days saying, we're not blocking anything. Here's the Russian ambassador to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, permanent representative of the Russian Federation to the UN. You claim that we, Russia, are allegedly blocking the possibility of exporting agricultural products from Ukraine by sea. However, the truth is that it is Ukraine and not Russia that continues to block 75 foreign ships from 17 states in the ports of Nikolaev, Kherson, Chernomorsk, Mariupol, Ochakov, Odessa, and Yuzhny. And it was Ukraine that mined the Black Sea. So true. Did you know that Russia is actually has opened humanitarian corridors, shipping corridors, for any ship to leave the Black Sea? They've opened up these corridors. They actually communicate the positions of these corridors like every 15 minutes via VHF signal. And they communicate it to the entire world, including Ukraine, that ships can leave safely via this passage. And it's Ukraine that doesn't let these ships leave. They're the ones that won't let ships leave the port. And it's Ukraine that mined the Black Sea. They put so many mines in and around the Black Sea that Turkey was upset because these mines were floating towards Turkish waters. And Turkish waters, people in Turkey, ships in Turkey, would find Ukrainian mines floating around, and they're like, what the hell is going on? You know, this is dangerous stuff. So Turkey had to complain about all the mines that Ukraine placed in the Black Sea. But Russia has these corridors open, and this is not Russian propaganda. International maritime organizations have confirmed that these shipping corridors are accessible and are available. But you won't hear this reported in the mainstream media because oh, here we go. The Future Museum at the Monastery of Ayanapa. Okay, so this is a monastery. All right, cool. Yeah, they have to get the narrative out there, the meme, that it's Russian blockades that are going to cause the food shortage. What's really causing the food shortage is the fact that the collective West, in their infinite stupidity, decided to place shock and awe sanctions on Russia, and Russia is the major wheat exporter of the entire world. And, that's going to have an effect. And Russia, for their part, they have not said that they're not going to export wheat. Actually, to the contrary, Putin came out with a statement just the other day, and he said Russia has had record wheat harvest, and Russia's going to feed and take care of its people, and then, they're going to provide their exports as they always do, going back to Soviet times. They're going to provide their commodities and their resources to the world and to friendly countries. That wheat and that food will be accessible via very favorable payment terms. But to unfriendly countries, it's going to be wheat for rubles. And that is what has the collective West freaking out, and that's what has the collective West creating these ridiculous Russia naval blockade memes and these naval blockade narratives. So that is the truth of what is happening. The truth is that the naval blockade is Ukraine's doing, and the collective West is now lying about it to cover more Zelensky lies. Just the other day, Zelensky was giving an interview to a Ukraine media channel, and he actually said that Ukraine has an army of 700,000 men ready to go. It's just an incredible, maybe it's true, I don't know, maybe it is true, what do I know? Zelensky said, we needed an army of more than 250,000 or 260,000, but there were only around 120,000 battle-ready troops in Ukraine before the start of the Russian military operation in late February. This is what he told Ukraine 24 media outlet on Friday. Zelensky noted that he'd given an order in early 2022 to boost the number of soldiers by another 100,000, no matter if we had the money or not. That's a direct quote. But Zelensky acknowledged that even those numbers weren't enough to stop the Russian military. Quote, today it's 700,000. Now you see the results of the work of 700,000 who are fighting, Zelensky said. So, I don't know if you guys buy it, that he has an army of 700,000 troops, but that's what he's saying, 700,000. 2 weeks ago it was 1 million, or they're going to put together an army of 1 million, so I don't know. Going back to that debate with Mearsheimer and McFaul, it would have been interesting if they followed up that exchange with a question to McFaul and Sikorsky, and they asked him, okay, you lied about Ukraine entering NATO. Why? Why did you lie? That would have been an interesting question to ask them. Why did you lie about it? What would be their answer to that? We lied for what? There's only two possible answers. The first answer is we lied because we wanted to provoke Russia into war with Ukraine and with the collective West. So we decided to really poke at the bear and to just keep on pushing the Ukraine is going to enter NATO, all the way to the point where we had to push out the narrative that Ukraine was going to get nukes. So we even had to put that out there in order to provoke Russia into this conflict. So that would be the first reason why they lied. The second reason why they lied about Ukraine getting into NATO all these years is maybe this started out as a small fib, like a little white lie, and it just snowballed out of control and they couldn't stop it. No reverse gear. These guys have no reverse gear. Many times in life we may say a white lie. I know it's happened to all of us where we've said something, like a small little lie, and it just kind of gets away from us. And after like a month or two, it turns into a real big problem. And you're like, crap, you know, I lied about going to the shop and getting milk, and now look, you know, I'm in all kinds of trouble. You know, you say something really small and it just kind of gets out of control. So maybe for them, this was just kind of their way of gaining leverage over Putin and Russia by throwing out this Ukraine's going to get into NATO lie and just kind of lightly tap the bear instead of poking it, tap the bear. But you know, months and years would pass, and that tap turned into a poke, and the neocons got hold of this small little fib about Ukraine entering NATO, and it just got away from them. And now we are where we are. So that could be another explanation as to why they lied, openly now lied about Ukraine getting into NATO privately, but publicly they were pushing Ukraine is going to get into NATO no matter what. So that would have been an interesting follow-up question to throw at McFowl and at Radoslav Sikorsky. So that's what's going on with this. This is the big story, the Russian blockade. That is the big story. And I think we'll get into a clown world, and we'll end the video there, because I have a really good clown world, a really good one. There is the other story that the United States Air Force has successfully tested hypersonic weapons. I thought this was interesting. After several failed tests, the U.S. Air Force successfully tested a hypersonic missile off the Southern California coast last week. The Air Force reports on May 14th a Boeing B-52 Stratofortress belonging to the 419 Flight Test Squadron and the Global Power Bomber Combined Test Force at Edwards Air Force Base, California, successfully released an AGM-183A Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, or ARRW, in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Southern California. They've tried 3-4 times to successfully test hypersonic missiles, but this time the Air Force says that they've done it. So I find that interesting. I know that the United States is going to get hypersonic missiles, hypersonic weapons soon. I just didn't think it would come this soon, or maybe this is not that significant. If there's any experts in the comments section, let me know. And let's walk around the fountain to the main street, and we'll do our clown world and finish up this video. So the clown world has to do with the World Economic Forum, which is going to be taking place in Davos. It's been 2.5 years since we've had a WEF meeting. It is now going to be taking place. Klaus Schwab and his merry men of globalists, they are going to have an in-person conference. And if that's not clown world enough, take a guess who is going to be speaking at this WEF forum. You will have Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, there. You will have the EU Commander-in-Chief, Ursula von der Crazy. She's going to be speaking there. And speaking via Zoom video, take a wild guess. Just take a wild guess. I'll give you guys 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Yes. Ukraine President Zelensky will be speaking via video to Klaus Schwab and the Davos elite. I'm sure everyone's excited to see this WEF conference. I wonder if anyone, are you guys lining up to buy tickets? If anyone is going to be buying tickets to that event, I'm sure it's going to be sold out. So yeah, Zelensky, van der Leyen, and Scholz. What a lineup at the WEF. I wonder if Zelensky is going to suit up for this one, like wear a suit and tie, or if he's going to wear his usual outfit, which is the green, the military green t-shirt. I wonder if he has like 2 or 3 of those shirts and he just washes them on rotation, or if he has a closet of like 100 of those. Anyway, that's the clown world, everybody. I think that is the pinnacle of clown world. Klaus Schwab, Zelensky, van der Leyen, and Olaf Scholz. All that's missing is Biden and Trudeau and Boris Johnson, and you have a full deck of clowns. All right, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. Check out Alexander's channel. check out the Duran's channel as well. I am signing out from Ayanapa. Take care.